Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Spangler. I am the geometry teacher at Middlesboro High School, and I was awarded the Learning Innovation Grant this summer. My grant project, my research project, is called Launch into Learning: Cultivating Curiosity in an IBL Blended Classroom. The main point that I was concerned about, especially with this blended schedule or online learning, is, are students going to be engaged? How do we keep students engaged and wanting to learn, wanting to log in and actively go to class? So these are some of the questions that I came up with to start this project. So one, how do you keep students engaged and actively participating in an online or blended setting? How do you help students develop critical thinking skills that will enhance their learning? Because critical thinking is extremely important in geometry and really for any class, especially as they get older into high school, beyond high school and into their lives. And then, can I use an inquiry-based learning model while teaching online or on a segmented or hybrid schedule? I've been playing around with wanting to do a full IBL classroom for a while, and I've always just kind of backed off because of the amount of work that I would have to do to prepare the lessons. And this seems like I'm preparing a whole new way of teaching anyway, so let's go for it. And then the three elements for engagement that I saw, or that I'm planning to incorporate, is I want to develop curiosity. If students are curious, they're going to ask more questions and want to learn. Critical thinking, engaging that critical thinking, developing that critical thinking is going to help students solve problems with math and in life beyond math as well. And then this inquiry-based learning, this model that highlights students being responsible for their own learning, for having a part in deciding how they learn and how they go about discovering ideas. I become more of a facilitator to their learning, guiding them in that right direction, but not necessarily directing them, not telling them exactly what to do. So my question is, will an inquiry-based learning approach keep 9th and 10th grade students engaged, promote curiosity, increase critical thinking skills, and aid students in developing a deep understanding of geometry in this blended learning environment that we're in? And some of the research that I did was really around inquiry-based learning, because this was the main conduit, this tool that I want to use to capture students and make them want to be involved in class. So according to Edutopia, IBL is more than just asking a student what he or she wants to know. It's about triggering curiosity. It's about making them wanting to go deeper. They start asking the questions rather than you having to sit there and just kind of like pulling teeth, getting them to answer knowledge recall type questions. It's activating their curiosity, which tends to be a more important and complex goal than just having them, or even us, just delivering information to them. It's making them think about it, making them want to know more about it. And then there are 4 key components to an IBL classroom. So the first one is that students end up asking the questions instead of the teacher. Instead of me being at the front of the classroom kind of just randomly calling out students to answer or to help solve a problem, it's students asking me or asking their classmates, what is this? Why does that happen? Could I do this instead of this? And then the second one is the research or exploration of a topic is done in class or at home before the instruction happens. So students are attempting to learn or attempting to solve things that they've not seen before, and they're using their own intelligence and their own critical thinking skills to attempt to solve something on their own, essentially. And then students are going to present what they learn during that research or exploration phase. They're going to present their strategy, present their problem-solving solution, or present the information that they decided to look up on their own. And then finally, there needs to be a period of reflection. So Whether it's a whole class or a small group or even individually, students need to reflect on that research or that exploration that they did. How did I come to that conclusion? Am I right? Am I on the right path? And then what is the right answer ultimately at the end? And so the goal of an IBL classroom is really to promote student engagement by empowering them to look beyond just the textbook. They want to start reaching out and start learning on their own and not just relying on the facts presented before them. They want to go deeper. They want to know more. So how do you achieve this in a digital classroom where 70% of your students are online in any given day? So I needed a way for students to be able to easily submit written work online, because geometry requires drawing figures, constructing figures with tools, writing out solutions, like illustrating solutions and problem solving. And it's more beneficial to the learning when it's done on paper. It's also much, much easier than trying to do some of these drawings and things on a computer, especially because they have Chromebooks and they have a touchpad. At least with the mouse, you can kind of work out numbers, but just with a touchpad, it gets really difficult to draw anything legibly or usefully. So through the research that I did, I discovered Rocketbooks. Now I have my own Rocketbook, and I bought it for the novelty of the idea, if I'm being really honest. But the more I started thinking about it and the more information I started collecting on Rocketbooks, I realized that they could be extremely useful. They could be the key to this problem that I was having with students being able to easily and efficiently write out their work and then submit it online without having to scan or take a picture and email or even have to physically take it to the school to turn in. So Rocketbooks are going to allow my students to answer these questions, illustrate these, and then instantly turn them in, because the way Rocketbooks are designed, there's a QR code and on the bottom of the page, and then 6 icons. So we're going to pick an icon. Students are going to set that icon to a specific folder in their Google Drive that's shared with me. So as soon as a student uses either that Chromebook or a cell phone to scan that page where their work is written, that page instantly goes to me. It's instantly turned in. So they don't have to worry about all these extra steps, or they don't have to worry about trying to figure out how to translate that written page into a computer assignment. It's going to allow us to quickly be able to collect all of these pages and then show them and analyze them together in class, because I can show them on the big screen or on the smartboard. So here's my plan of action. The first step is my step, where I have to design the lessons based on that IBL model. And then all of their assignments, all of their references are going to be posted on Blackboard for that week. And then this includes a variety of types of assignments. There are discussion posts each week where they're asked to delve into a problem-solving problem and come up with a unique solution, and then communicate to their classmates, ask their classmates questions, comment on their classmates' solutions, kind of create this discussion over a problem with mathematical language. Then there could be video analysis questions. So if they're given a video, they have to kind of analyze what's going on in the video, synthesize that information, and sum it up on their own. Then there's interactive lessons such as like a Desmos activity or a Pear Deck presentation or something where they're actively manipulating things on a screen. And then finally are those Rocketbooks assignments, those delving deeper into the geometry and the handwritten assignments. So after this is done, students are then going to have to execute. They're going to complete most assignments either at home or in class before the lesson starts. So like we'll have a day or part of the class where they're saying, all right, do this assignment now, and then we're going to share after you've taken say, a certain amount of time to do it. So, and a better way to say this is perhaps that students are going to attempt these assignments. They're going to make a solid attempt on getting a right answer or finding a solution to something that they may not have ever seen before. And they're going to hopefully start to discover concepts naturally or organically without having to be explicitly told a solution. And then after they've done this attempt or they've come up with this solution, they're going to come together as a whole class to determine the whole picture or to search out the real truth. So the whole class communication is the third step in this, where we'll be using Zoom to connect to online students so that they can be active in the lesson as well. We will analyze all the different approaches, all the different solutions, all those strategies that students have come up with. We'll pull those Rocketbook solutions out of the folders, put them on the smartboard so that students at home and in class can see these, and we'll break them down step by step. How did this student solve it? What did they do? What was unique about their solution compared to the rest of the solutions? And then through this process, we're going to determine what the truth is. What is the truth of the concept? What are the facts that they need to take away from this? And this will be student-led. We're looking at the students' work. We're looking at their ideas first. And then we're seeing how they compare to the textbook or to the lesson or the content for that section. So this is an example of what a typical 3-day week would look like, because the way Middlesboro has divided their hybrid is they have a group A who are in person on Monday and Tuesday and a group B that are in person on Thursday and Friday. And Wednesdays are online for everyone, including teachers. So we have online, almost office hours types to reach out, to grade, to kind of manage these online world that we're living in right now. So the first step would be on Wednesday is there's going to be a discussion post posted. So for example, a discussion post for geometry could be 2 lines that are not parallel do not share any points. And then the students are going to answer whether they think that statement is always, sometimes, or never true. And then the key is they have to explain that reasoning. So once they post this, then they're going to be able to see all of their classmates' posts, and they have to comment on at least 2 of their classmates' posts to encourage and to further the discussion. Do they agree? Do they disagree? Why did you say that? Types of questions like that to kind of deepen the thinking. Then on Thursday, when group B comes into the class, so they're in person, we're going to have a lesson. We're going to have a Zoom call going with students who are online that week or that day. And the lesson will be over points, lines, planes, and angles, which is one of the first fundamental parts of geometry after you do some of the reasoning and conditional statements and logic sections. And they're going to be asked to draw, identify, label, and define a set of images or set of figures. So that could be a point, a plane, a right angle, an acute angle, a straight angle, parallel and perpendicular lines. These are all things that they've heard of in the past. So at some point in their elementary or middle school, they've heard of these terms, but they may have not thought about them in years. So now they've got to, in their Rocketbooks, they're going to draw what they think that figure looks like. They're going to label it, and then they're going to define it. What makes an angle a right angle? And then once we have everyone who's completed this, we'll give them a certain amount of time. Then they're going to turn in that Rocketbook page, and then we're going to go through and we're going to look at some of those pieces. We're going to pick out specific figures, and we're going to compare them across everyone's or the majority of people's solutions. What does everyone think a straight angle looks like? What is everyone's definition of a straight angle? And we're going to pick out together as a whole class those comparisons, those things that everyone has said or things that everyone has not said. Looking at the outliers, people who come up with completely different answers. And then we're going to finally finalize what those images or what those figures should look like, what their definitions are. How do you label them? And so this whole video is being done with both, or this whole Zoom call is being done with both in-person students and virtual students. And it's being recorded so that students who maybe overslept that day, or they just chose not to show up for that Zoom call, it's still posted. So they can go back and they can watch that video later and they can complete the Rocketbook assignment, especially since we're going to leave out some of those figures to go over the next day, most likely, so that those people who don't do it during class, they can still do it that evening, and then we can look at their answers on Friday. And then on Friday, we're going to use that previous day's lesson, and then we're going to finalize all of those figures, all those definitions, all of those labels. And then there will be a kind of a sum it up assignment to make sure that students are grasping and understanding those figures and they can use them in a vocabulary or use them in context correctly. And then we'll sum everything up and we'll ask them, okay, let's move on now. Do you understand what each of these look like? So from all of this process, the expected outcomes that I have, that I'm going to see an increase of curiosity and an increase of interest in geometry, because students are going to be discovering things on their own rather than just being lectured to. I'm hoping to see regular participation from my online students and my hybrid students. I'm hoping to see an increase of critical thinking skills and a deeper understanding of geometry concepts. And then the overall goal is active engagement in the course. So to measure this, I have a student survey that I will be giving at the end of each 9 weeks that is going to ask questions about their curiosity and how the class is going. Are they interested? Have they learned anything? Are they engaged? Is there anything they could change or that would help them be more engaged or more interested? And then also just observations that I have. Are students logging in? Are they asking more questions? Are they becoming better math students and going deeper than just, oh, what's the right answer? That process is becoming more important than getting the right answer, so to speak. And then regular participation. Are students actively doing the assignments? Are they participating in the class discussions? Are they on those Zoom calls? And then for the critical thinking skills, I have a critical thinking survey or assessment. I've already administered it once as an initial data source. And this will be administered, it's already been administered once. It'll also be administered in January and then also at the end of April into May, to kind of just see how those critical thinking skills have evolved throughout this year of these really in-depth critical thinking heavy assignments and processes. And then this deeper understanding of geometry concepts with a pre-assessment, a semester final exam, and then a final exam. So the beginning of the year, before they've learned anything, at Christmas, or probably January in this case, and then a final exam at the end of the year. And then just for the active engagement, it's just going to be compiled data from all of the 4 areas. I'm hoping to see improvements throughout the year. More students are asking more questions, are learning more, are thinking deeper. So I do have the data from that first initial critical thinking exam. So this is the graph from my regular geometry students. I have about 68 regular geometry students. Now, there are a few down here at the very bottom who just did not take the exam. They have not gone on Blackboard. They've just not taken it. And then you see the majority of this information is falling rather between the 60% mark and the 15% mark. That's where the majority of the data is. You have some outliers who are above the 60% mark, and those some of those have scored extremely high. Like I have a few who have scored like almost 100%, which is impressive. they scored higher than I did when I took this the first time. So I'm hoping that we will see this data by the end of the year shift upwards. I'm hoping for no more zeros. I'm hoping that would be an indication of higher engagement, if no more zeros down here. And then all of these in the middle, just shifting them up on the graph. And then these who are at the very top, I want them to either stay there or move even further up. Now the second graph here is my honors geometry class. I have about 30 honors geometry students. They are mostly freshmen who have taken Algebra 2 in middle school, and a few sophomores. Now their scores are skewed a little higher. Their scores are somewhere between this 45 and 80% range, with a few people going above 80 and then one person down here really below that 45%. So theirs as a whole is skewed a little higher than my regular geometry class. So by the end of the year, hopefully these will all be moving up here to this 90 and high 80% scores. So far, we've only been in school for a few weeks now. I think it's been about a month total for Middlesboro being in school, and we've been about 3 weeks of in-person instruction with hybrid. And I'm already seeing, as a whole school, we are already seeing a problem with students being fully engaged in their classes, especially our online only students. There are a vast number of students who are they're logging into Blackboard, they're looking at their assignments, and then they're just choosing to not complete them, or they're not even logging in at all. So hopefully through this project, at least in my classes, and maybe even as I can help and other teachers in the school kind of expand some of these ideas as well, we're going to see that engagement go up. We're going to see students becoming more invested in their learning. And then the plans for improving that engagement for me and for this grant and really capturing those students' curiosity is in progress. The Rocket books are soon to be ordered. The purchase order has been submitted. I just got to wait for it to come back so that I can order these. And all of my students who I've been completely honest and upfront with them about this project this year, they're very excited. They keep asking me every day, have you ordered them yet? When are they getting here? Even some of my online students have been messaging me, are the Rocket books here yet? When can I come pick those up? So they're excited, which makes me excited because they're ready to start learning. And then so coming up, I am going to be presenting my plan and research goal to the Middlesboro School Board. And hopefully I will also get a second presentation in the spring where I can go over all of the improvements and all of the data collected, and maybe even have a few students come in with me to talk about their experience with this inquiry-based learning and these Rocket books with the virtual classroom. I'm also going to be working with the MHS social media outlets, and we're going to be posting regular progress updates throughout this study, throughout this year. And the first post will hopefully be Rocket books are here in a few weeks.